What are you playing there?
I'm just, I'm always happiest if I'm playing, so I'm just sort of playing. Just sort of playing little things that I'm thinking about or working on. Little shapes, trying to break habits, whatever.
Break habits or establish habits?
Well, both.
Yeah.
Might be the same thing.
How many of these guitar summits have there been? Do you know?
I think there must have been 15 by now.
Really?
Well, I suppose. It's gone a long time. I mean, it used to be, we did it with, the first ones I think were John Stoll and Dan Fanley and I, and then we did it with Jerry Hahn consistently, and then we did it with, we've done it with, I think, John Butler joined us, I think for sure once, I'm pretty sure. Mike Denny, I've certainly done it a couple of times, or at least once, and then now, that was all done at the old church with that concert series, and we were kind of they would have us every year, and that was all thanks to Sandy Stallcup. I think I've got that name right. And she kept that thing going, and if anything reminds you of, these things are all kept going by, one dedicated person. That was sort of her baby, and the moment she's like, I've done this for 15 years, I'm going to step down, who's going to take my place? It's like, nobody. It's like, it's very, sad. It just reminds you that, the society, I think, is held together by a handful of good people, who really do more than their share. And then when they step out of the way, if nobody fills the gap, it just disappears. So anyway, Sandy stopped doing it at the old church, stopped that concert series, so that put an end to the Guitar Summit. And then now Nel Centro, which is a restaurant at the Hotel Moderna, is owned by Dave Machado. I hope I'm getting all this right. That restaurant, and he is a jazz guitar student and fan, and sort of a guy who puts his money where his mouth is, and so he's backing it and helps make it happen at the hotel. And so we've reborn, and we did it last year with John Stoll, who's always been there with me. And although I think one year I probably wasn't. One year I think I was on the road with Diane Scher, and I missed it. But John Stoll and Mike Pardue, who plays at the Nel Centro restaurant on weekends, and so we did it last year as sort of a tribute to Jim Hall, and this year is a tribute to Les Paul, who passed away, and I think. So it's gone on for a long time, and they're actually going to do it down in Silverton, at the Silverton Wine and Jazz Festival. We're going to take the same group down there.
Excellent. Well, we know why Les Paul, but what Les Paul are you going to be doing?
I wish I knew more about that. And we're going to have a rehearsal, and I think I'm going to be told. I mean, I think it's, I think he was chosen because he's, iconic figure, and he passed away, and, he lived a long, long time, and, he invented all that stuff and did all that stuff and played well, and then he also played right up to the bitter end. Or the beautiful end, however you want to look at it. Playing the Steady Monday gig in New York that, all the cats would hang out at. George Benson would be there, or whoever was in town, famous rock stars and everybody. So he sort of had he had a career playing, and then he had kind of more of a career as an inventor, innovator. And then he, sort of had a further career as sort of, the oldest guy playing jazz guitar on a regular level. So I think he's, a good choice, to be honored.
Do you really consider him a jazz artist?
I should, I don't know as much about him as I should. I don't consider him a jazz guitarist in the sense of, the great, great famous jazz guitarist, but he's one of those guys that you'll hear and you go, oh, wow. Because a lot of guys played a lot of great stuff back then that we don't know about. I mean, like in country swing bands, you'll hear like whoever it was who played with Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys or whoever. You'll be like, whoa, that's some pretty good guitar playing. I can hear the Charlie Christian in that, or I can hear the swing feel in that. So, I think certainly he's a worthy guitar player.
So you've been playing with Stoll for all this time. What is that? It must be all unspoken by now.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people my favorite John Stoll story is that when I was 19 and going to Lewis and Clark College, and I was listening to it was probably KBOO at the time. It would not have been what it would have been 30 years ago. Or maybe it was, or I don't know if KMHD was the. I think it may have been back when it was. I don't know who was maybe they were both going full blown at the time. But I was listening to jazz radio in Portland, which had been KBOO, and there was solo jazz guitar playing. And I said, if that's John Stoll, I quit, because it was, he's such a great player. And it was John, and I didn't quit. I practiced more. And I remember going to his house. He lived in a little apartment in Southeast, and he was always so welcoming to anybody who wants to play. I mean, John would be like, anybody, he was always ready to get together, play at the drop of a hat, putting together sessions, and playing, any tunes for any reason. I mean, it's really a Zen thing with John, I think. And so I went over to his house, and I brought him a half a pound of coffee beans, because at the time, John still drank coffee. I think he just drinks tea now. He still drank coffee, so I brought coffee and coffee beans, quality coffee beans, because John still drank coffee, and we played songs I'll never forget. We played I Hear a Rhapsody, something I wanted to learn, and he showed it to me, and like as if he was, this won't be any problem for you, you'll just pick this right up. And I struggled with it, and I still use that method sometimes when I'm giving lessons. I'll say, well, let's play this song, and it's a real test of you, and I just, it was a challenge. So since that time, I've gotten together with John and played now and again, and he's one of the best people in the music business. He's just a great human being and a great artist. And so it's always a pleasure to see him, and we always have a lot of laughs. When we used to do it with Dan Family, we had a real lot of yucks, and so it's a lot of laughs, and it's John's always an inspiration to hear and play with. And Mike Pardue was a student of mine for many, many years, and also he took some lessons from John, and takes some lessons from various people. And Mike is like a lot of these young guitar players. I say young, I might be talking about somebody in their their 30s. These guys can really play. So Mike's a great composer and a great player, and fits right in, and he's kind of the house guy at the place, so he's the logical choice. So it's a great thing to be in. So I'm glad to be doing it. We're lucky to be doing it, and we hope to see everybody there.